My sobriety date is December 24th, 2010. I just came up on 18 months.
All right.
It's not my first rodeo in recovery. I've put together a few years before and decided to do some more research. I'm definitely not a one white chip wonder. Just to let you know who I am, what happened, and what it's like now. I was born in the Bronx, New York. Born into a very loving family. My parents were not abusive, and they were not alcoholic. When I was around sixth grade or something, I guess my dad did the George Jefferson thing, moved out to Long Island, and it was pretty nice, and he provided a nice lifestyle for us. Yet I always felt different. I always felt like I was missing out on something. I was always the kid who used to sneak out at night and get caught by his father on the way back in. It was just always like I wanted to be partying somewhere, doing something. I just never felt comfortable just sitting around the house watching TV. I could take a beating and stuff from my dad when he decided to spank me. But if he put me on punishment and stuff, and I wasn't allowed outside and stuff, I'd climb the walls. And it's just the type of person I was. I started to go to school. Wasn't very successful at sticking through many things or gutting many things out. And after about a year of college and a couple of different events, some of my first ramifications of drinking took place when I went to school. I went to a really big high school, and my graduating class was 1,580 people. And so it was, unless you were some type of rock star, it was impossible to play sports on the high school level. But I tried every year, and every year I was like the last guy cut into the basketball team each year. It was like this running joke and stuff. Anyway, but when I went to college in New York, I was good enough to be a walk-on the college team. And but I liked to drink from a very young age. And when my coach noticed alcohol in my breath, he kicked me off the team. That was one of the first consequences I experienced. The first time I tasted booze, I was really young, maybe 6, 7 years old. My parents, being from Jamaica, they like to play hard too. And they were good people, but they like to play hard. They would throw parties on the weekends that sometimes would last 3. Sometimes the weekend would look like Thursday through Sunday, and then like people would break up to go to work on Monday. And they'd have Domino's and Appleton rum out, and they would call me over and stuff to the domino table. Made me feel like an adult. My dad would be like, "Have a sip of this," you know what I mean? And it felt good. It felt warm. It felt like I was an adult. I was a grown up. It was a good feeling. And when I was in high school, it was kind of cool to cut out of class and go to the local bodega and get some Colt 45 or some Old English 800 and pour a little bit out for the brothers who couldn't attend. And that was kind of like how we rolled, you know what I'm saying? And that's how we rolled. And that was a good thing. And it felt like social lubricant, It made me feel like part of a crowd. And that worked for me. I remember my scene in New York wasn't so much like all the high school dances. It was about basement parties. And we'd go into the city and visit some relative or visit some friend, and they'd be having a party in their basement. Everybody would have to chip in a little something, and they'd have a little DJ going, and there were women there, and it involved me having to cross the basement to ask some woman to dance, and I'm glad there was beer there. I'm glad there was booze there. It was social lubricant for me and stuff. I could take a couple sips, get my beer muscles going and stuff, and then have the courage to ask you to dance, you know what I mean? Without it, I'd just be sitting there nodding my head against the wall and stuff looking at you. And went on and on like that, When the first woman that I was in love with as a teenager and stuff decided to cheat on me, it was a good thing that beer was around, and it was a good thing that booze was around and stuff, because I could drink my sorrows away and stuff, and I could talk shit about her to, my fellows. It was a perfect solution. Alcohol was a perfect solution. It worked when I was happy. It worked when I was sad. It worked when I was lonely. It just worked. And it continued to work for me when I went to the Marine Corps, and I really learned how to drink. And continued to work for me and stuff when I got married. I did shrooms on my honeymoon. I want to get something straight. I'm talking about alcoholism. And alcohol is but a symptom of my disease. So I'm going to talk about gambling, sex, drugs, whatever. As long as I'm confining my disease to alcoholism and stuff, it's fair game in AA. At least that's what our big book tells us. So, anyway, I know and stuff that, and then when we got divorced, when I lost my daughter to cancer and stuff, I'm grateful booze was there. It helped take me out my pain. Missed the funeral, caused more pain, but I could drink about that too. It was a perfect solution for me. It worked under all conditions. And it continued to do that. I got out of the Marine Corps after a divorce, and after my time was up, and after I was back from overseas, and my alcoholism started to progress. Getting drunk on its own wasn't doing it for me anymore. The introduction of drugs started to become involved. I always smoked a little bit of weed and stuff. I mean, my family is from Jamaica, and I had access to some good shit. But the truth is, yes, sir. But it progressed a little bit in my 20s, and I wind up relocating because my whole family moved out to the Carolinas, and I didn't know anybody. And stuff, and it was a great social lubricant. So I started to venture out and stuff, and started to hit clubs. Enrolled in college again, making a second attempt and stuff. I was always satisfied by doing the least amount of work that I could do to get somewhere. It was like I wanted to be a nurse, and I took this test, and they asked me, do you want to be an LPN or an RN? And I was like, what is faster? That was my response. What's faster? How do I get to this point faster? They're like, you become an LPN in a year. I was like, I'll do that. I want to get paid. And I went to this community college, and went to a lot of clubs, and actually got a job working at one as a bouncer, and helped pay my way through school. They helped pay for my booze. It was a perfect situation, and that worked for me through school. I mean, I don't know how I got through college as drunk as I was and as hungover as I was, especially through a nursing curriculum, because it's pretty tough. But I did what I did, and took the state board, got licensed, started to work. That was a long time ago, and I started off making $10 an hour, which seemed like a fortune. I could go buy a car. I could buy a car, so got myself a Nissan Stanza. I thought I was big balling. My big shotism started to kick in and around that time. So that I was working, a lot of my friends were still in college. And, I'd buy drinks and I'd overspend, and I just wasn't a very good steward with money. I got into going to topless bars at that point. That was like booze and sex combined. It was a very good thing for me, and that lasted for a while. And my big shotism would kick in there, and I'd walk out spending a whole week's check in a night, and didn't care, because instant gratification was so important to me. I went ahead and started getting into gambling then too. They had a little video poker game at this particular club where I knew the owner. And anyway, I started getting into that, and I won a few nights in a row. And after I won a few nights in a row, I thought this was better than work. And, the point being, without going on too long of a drunk log, I found a whole lot of ways to get out of self. I found a whole lot of ways that I would discover later on that I never stopped growing past that kid that would sneak out of his house in the middle of the night just because he thought he was missing something out in the street. And I'm well into my 30s at this point. And it always seemed like I was missing something, or I wanted to do something, or I had to be somewhere, or I had to, you know what I mean? It was like just self-will run right. I was just into instant gratification. I was introduced to AA after missing several shifts at work and showing up at a job a long time ago smelling of booze. And I guess my boss took mercy on me, didn't report me to state board or anything, but she said, maybe you should go find out about one of those meetings, those places where people go for alcoholism, right? And my life was out of control, At the time, I had a $30,000 a year job, which was decent money, and I'm living with mom and dad, and the moment I get paid, it's spent, and, borrowing from people, and, my life was just very unmanageable. And I guess seeking a little outside help didn't seem like a bad idea. I called the EPA program and found out where meetings were at, and talked to them about it. They set up a little counseling, and I'd go to meetings. This was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And when I'd go to meetings and stuff, you guys were way, way, way sicker than I was, man, you guys were talking about eating under bridges, and shit, I was living at home. You know what I'm saying? As irresponsible as I might have been, I wasn't dumpster diving, at this point, it was kind of scary, come to an AA meeting. So, it didn't last long. I figured I'd keep handling things myself. And life progressively got worse. And it digressed to the point where I stopped being a nurse. I started being a taxi driver, and I was participating in all kinds of illegal shit. And I was essentially homeless, and I was sleeping in the cab. And I decided it'd be a good idea to take a geographical cure. And I left Charlotte, North Carolina, to come down to Florida. And I was having hopes that this was going to be a whole new beginning. I was going to be able to rebuild my whole life and stuff down here and stuff, Couldn't be as bad in Miami and Fort Lauderdale, Florida, as it was in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's no way. So Charlotte was rough. And which And that's just how I thought. That's just how I thought. And I come down here and I start going to this place called the Pine Island Room. There's a group that used to be out west a long time ago, and when I started going to the Pine Island Room, I'd go into this room and I would sit down and not say nothing to nobody because I didn't trust y'all. And nobody said nothing to me. It took me a while before I realized that the hand of AA will be extended to me and stuff if I reach out for it. I got to ask for help. I got to want to be part of, and I got to demonstrate some willingness and stuff for people to extend the hand of friendship to me. And I was full of self-entitlement. Here I am, save my life. You know what I mean? And it's like, no. I had to learn how to open up. Anyway, I went to those meetings for a while, put some time together, got the job, got the girl, got the car, got the stuff, and relapsed. And then I repeated that. Only took a little bit less time before the relapse. And I repeated that, and it only took a little bit less time before the relapse. And the fact of the matter is, I thought I was brighter than you people. It was like I'm hooked on phonics. I could read the steps on the wall. I get it. You know what I'm saying? I got it. It's like this story in the book, right? Thanks for the information. I'm out. You know what I mean? And I was my own sponsor for quite a while. I'd get people who I would claim was my sponsor, and they would be sponsors in name only because I really wasn't listening to shit they had to say. And but it looked good. If I was in a halfway house, I had to have a sponsor. Had to. It was one of the rules. You know what I mean? So I would do what I'd have to do to get by. And they say that you'll only get out of your recovery what you put into it. And I always seemed to be the type of person that had to learn the hard way. I don't know why. I wish I was one of those people that were wise instead of being smart. I was one of those people that could learn from other people's mistakes instead of having to do them myself. But I tend to be the type of person who has to do it myself and find out that way. So, anyway, I know you'll hear and stuff if you stick around long enough, people wishing you a slow recovery, right? I know where that statement comes from. You know what I mean? I get that, but I wish my recovery wasn't so slow. We're trying to grasp onto this thing a little sooner, That's just me. So anyway, fast forward a few years and several halfway houses later and stuff. I was staying at this guy, Richie Hendrickens' halfway house, First Step Sober House, when it was first opening up over here in Pompano off Atlantic. And when I was staying over there and stuff, he only had one building at that point. It was a big place. Chris just opened it up. And anyway, and I went and I graduated and relapsed. And then I went back and I graduated and relapsed. And then I went back and Richie was like, this shit ain't working for you, Dave. And he wouldn't let me back in. And I was like, how dare you? I've paid my bills. And he was like, no, this ain't working for you. And he goes, but I know some place you might like, So he takes me to this guy, Clinton's house. And this is like a straight out rock house, man. I mean, people were just blazing right in the house. And I felt uncomfortable, considering my shoes got stolen that night and shit. I wasn't happy. And, it was dog eat dog, and I just couldn't wait to get out of there. So I already started setting up my next relapse for payday. Because in my mind, payday, I was done. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't need to be this involved. And on Friday, I got paid. Didn't tell anybody I was leaving. Just decided it would be a good idea to relapse. So I went ahead and had a couple of drinks. After I had a couple of drinks, going to the casino seemed like it'd be a good idea, even though I never won. But what you call it? But I seemed like a good idea, and I go over to the Coconut Creek Casino over there, and I start playing. And in fact, that day I did win, and I won a jackpot. It was like $16,900. Huge. And for me, living in a halfway house at that time, stuff, you would have thought I hit $1 million. I thought the machine was broke. I'm like looking at this thing, the screen is black, right? You know, and I'm like, what the hell? And then the police officers coming up to me like, let me escort you over to the cage. You know, now I'm really feeling like a big shot. I'm homeless, yet I'm tipping this lady $100. Here you go, baby. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, just big shotism through and through, you know? And having that kind of cash sent me on a roll, right? You know what I mean? Having that kind of cash and stuff with uncontrolled alcoholism will mess you up, you know? So, you know, from there to the $250 night room to the fancy restaurant where I could have some drinks, I'm still homeless. Right? To the topless bar, back to the casino, to the liquor store, right? And for some strange reason, you know, I really think and stuff, and this probably sounds sacrilegious in this room, but, you know, I think this was like a godlike intervention because I could not spend that money. Every time I went back to the casino, I hit. Hadn't hit in years at that point, at least 15 years. I'd get all messed up, go back there, win a little bit more. Go back out, booze, girls, food, whatever. Go back there, hit a little bit more. And as a consequence, I stayed up for about 4 days. And by time that time was over, I was really getting psychotic. You know, now they won't let me in the casino because I'm acting crazy. Now they won't let me in the topless bar because I'm acting crazy. And I'm like, I've been thrown out of better places than this. I'll go find another topless bar. You know what I mean? And I get thrown out of there because I'm acting crazy. I'm sleep deprived. And, but I got money. I'm driving around drunk, but I got money. And anyway, I had a moment of clarity. And it was like, if I don't stop, I'll spend this money within a week. Now, it's not like God came out of the heavens and anointed me or anything like that. So, but I believe a moment of clarity or moments of grace, it's a gift that God gives you just to give you a little wake-up call, a little nudge. And He gives you a little nudge and stuff when the time may be right for you. And I don't know what that was about because otherwise I would have never did the type of shit I was doing. But I felt that, and I went to my dad's house, which is unthinkable for a guy like me, and I laid out $16,000 on his kitchen table. I said, take it. Take it. Because if you don't, I'm going to kill myself in the process. And he never knew me to do anything like that before. Mom never knew me to shit. If anything, if I was showing up, I was asking you for money. I wasn't there to hand you money. So, you know, they knew I was serious at that moment. And they helped me get into a center in South Carolina, as ironic as that is. So, like, I run from the Carolinas here, thinking it's going to be better. Then I run here back to the Carolinas. And eventually I'll come running back down here. There's all the family and all the people I know. And, but I go to a treatment center there. After 3 months in the treatment center and stuff, they designed to really put you through the first 5 steps. And they encouraged that you didn't do your 5th step with a sponsor, that you did it with a priest. There was a little monastery and stuff in there then. And that was the first time I honestly wrote out a 4th step, and I actually did the deal that I was doing. And spoke to this guy, and I'm not a religious person. It was a beautiful place. It was like a little sanctuary almost for people who are religious. I'm not Catholic. And And yet I'm sitting in this little room talking to this guy. And when I let everything out, it was like such a weight was being lifted from my shoulder. It just seemed so spiritual to me. And I was scared, man, you know. I mean, I wasn't used to feeling that type of thing. And I didn't want to go back to the way I was living. And I was graduating from this little program. I wound up getting a little studio apartment right next to the rehab center. And I would still go there and stuff for meetings, you know. And I just stayed plugged in. And one of the counselors said, you know, why don't you go back to school? And I was like, why not? And I went to the University of South Carolina and finished up my degree and became an RN. So much, it was a long time ago. And I put together multiple years. Sponsored people and took people through steps the way my sponsor at that time took me through steps and did all that stuff and got the stuff. And got the house and got the car and got the company car and got the girl and got her a ring and did the things that people do. And for some reason, I stopped plugging in. You know, it seemed like the more I got wrapped up with material shit, the less meetings I were going to, the more rationales I was coming up with. You know, it was like, you know, I got to work these 60 hours a week and stuff. I don't got time to go to an hour a day. Right? I got a lady waiting for me at home and stuff. I got to take her out occasionally. I got to do some stuff with her. Right? I got to dust up around the house. I got to mow grass. I got stuff. You know? And it just always seemed like I'd come up with like some kind of rationalization not to go. But the fact of the matter is and stuff, something I've learned now is that anything you put ahead of your sobriety, you lose. I had the type of job that sent me to Cabo San Lucas in Mexico on a business trip. Just leave it at that. And and they sent me on this business trip down there. And I've got the fiance at home. I got the stuff. And it almost seemed like my recovery was like geological in nature. Like there was some type of mileage limit on my recovery and stuff. Shit, I was in a different country, you know. What's coming out? It was like, who's gonna know? You know what I mean? Who's gonna know I'm in Mexico, right? You know what I mean? And this lady that I thought was cute asked me if I was gonna let her drink by herself, and I said, no, that'd be rude. Really did. That came out of my mouth, and I forgot I was an alcoholic. It took a little time. You know, it took a little time, but I really believed, despite all the evidence, that I could drink safely again for some reason. I don't know why. But I did. By the time I was done, not only did I get laid, because you saw how Dave drank, but the truth of the matter is and stuff, I wasn't showing up too sharp at my meeting the next morning either. They sent me to a different country to represent this company in a business deal. And I was incapable of doing that. That's after one day. And as a result, the job didn't work out too well for much longer. Didn't have that job too much longer. And I started to spiral. I got into a bad car wreck. Girl left, job left. House still there legally, but it's going into foreclosure, or is in foreclosure at this point. And I was feeling a lot of guilt, remorse, and shame, and I had proven to myself once again I was alcoholic. And I called up a buddy of mine and stuff who owns a halfway house / treatment center out here, and I asked if I could come back. I still had a bunch of wine coolers that when my ex left me, she forgot in the basement and stuff, so I still had some booze left, so it took me a couple weeks. But I had to finish. But when it was done, right, you know what I mean? I came up this way and got into a treatment center on Christmas Eve, and I hadn't drank and hadn't drunk since. I have a sponsor who has a sponsor. I've worked the 12 steps of recovery. I try to practice those principles in my life to the best of my ability. I have a job again, got a car again. You know, no girl yet. But I beat myself up enough along the way to realize that this has to come first. You know, I take this very seriously today. It's the most important thing in my life. And that's all I got. This is my half hour.
Come on, I gotta give David a better hand than that.